Hi everyone, this is the Patriotic Robot. I'd like to thank all of you for stopping in here and watching this video. And you can see we're gonna walk through this video here. My personal conversations with Isaac Cappy, Daniel John Lee's video here, and I'm gonna give you my opinion on some things, and could get a little heated. Robot could get a little irritated on this one, so if you're not in the mood for that, it's maybe time to exit the ride right now. But if you're still here, let's give it a run here. Let's check this out.
Shalom, everyone. I want to make a video. I'm not going to be putting any of my links to my donations below the video because I don't want anyone to think that I'm using Isaac Cappy's death as a means to get viewers or to get money or anything like that. I'm simply making this because I
So he opens the video up with, well, I took all my donation links down because I don't want any money from this video. Just how stupid does he think we are? So I'm gonna take my links down, but I'm telling you at the beginning of the video that there's links that you can donate to. Come on, man, really? This dude's not very sharp. Look at that look. Yeah, look at that look. Hideous.
I've been praying about this, and I feel like Yah wants me to do this. I want to talk about the sort of tumultuous relationship I had with Isaac Cappy. I didn't know him too well, but we did talk on the phone on a few occasions at length.
Just to clarify for anyone who's not familiar with this part of the story, Isaac Cappy did not like Daniel John Lee at all. So all this baloney he's fixing to let come out of his mouth, it's fantasy on his part. In reality, it was very different. Isaac didn't like him. Isaac told him some information in passing and heard him talking about it, and it was like, look, don't go public with this information. And Daniel said, okay. And then the next thing you know, he turns around and he went public with it. And it ticked Cappy off, and he tried to tell him, look, don't do this anymore or we're going to have an issue. And Daniel wasn't worried about no friendship with Cappy. He wasn't worried about none of this garbage that he's fixing to tell you. He was worried about getting clicks, getting views, trying to make money exclusively off of YouTube so he didn't have to get his lazy bum up and go work. That's the real deal. That's what's really going on. And we're going to take a pause right here in this video, and I'm going to play a clip for you and show you how he went against his word in another situation very similar to what he did with Cappy. So let's take a look at this clip. So here in this clip, this is Sam. If you remember from a previous video I did, Sam was a guy that he met at a college campus at USC, and Sam was in a wheelchair, and Daniel had this fantasy that he could, ask God to heal him, and he was going to hop up out of the chair and do a little dance, and all the students were going to see him and just praise God and praise Daniel, and Daniel was going to be this star of a preacher, and that was going to be the way he was going to make his money. So this guy, Sam, Daniel said, well, let's watch the clip.
You don't want to be on camera? No, I was just here. Hallelujah, hallelujah. You mind? Guys, hallelujah. Someone has been set free. Set free, told You want to give your testimony at all? Okay. All right. I'll respect your wishes. Hallelujah.
So there you go. Twice. You want to be on camera? No. Okay, that's cool. Boom, puts him on camera. Oh, you want to give your testimony? No, I'm cool. Okay, I'll walk back over here with the camera and point it at you again. So this, I was just watching this earlier and I thought this is a perfect example of what happened with Cappy. You know, here's some information. Don't run with it. Oh, okay. Boom, runs with it. Hey man, don't do that. You're putting people at risk. Oh, okay. Boom, runs with it again. Because Daniel doesn't give a crap about putting anybody at risk. He doesn't care about the truth. He doesn't care who he hurts. He wants money for sitting on his rump, and he will do anything to get it because he is a lazy individual. And I know I've said this before, and folks, I guess they think it's too simple. Like, there's got to be more to it. It is that simple with this guy. Laziness at all costs. Anyway, let's continue with his video.
Richard Nixon and others who have been satanic pedophiles. And so I became very just blown away by a lot of this information. And Yah spoke to me during that time. He said, I want you to start using your platform to expose these satanic pedophiles, to raise awareness about human and child sex trafficking. And that's exactly what I did. As my channel began to grow and I got more subscribers, Isaac Cappy heard about me, or I might have reached out to him by Twitter, and he finally messaged me back. And I think either he gave me his phone or I gave him mine, but somehow we wound up on the phone. This was about September of 2018. And our very first conversation was about, half hour, 45 minutes long. But it was very joyful. I was just telling him how appreciative I was about bringing all this information to light. And he said he really appreciated the videos that I was making, and he could tell my sources were legitimate. And I shared with him a little bit about my...
That's not true. Never happened. Daniel fantasy.
Testimony about my faith, that I was a Christian, but that I also do the Hebrew roots of the Christian faith, that I was a Messianic. And he actually responded. He said, oh, yeah, I when I was raised in Albuquerque, New Mexico, I attended or I visited a Messianic Jewish congregation. I thought, oh, that's really cool. But he was clear to me that he was not a Christian. He sort of had I don't know.
He was not your version of a Christian. That's what you meant to say.
A New Age hybrid religion where he believed in things like reincarnation and whatnot. But we had a very edifying and pleasant conversation. About a month later, in October of 2018, he called me again one night, and he told me in confidence that Jim Carrey had contacted him.
Did you get that? In confidence, he contacted him.
And Jim Carrey had said all this just weird, esoteric stuff, and Isaac Cappy was kind of a little freaked out about it all. And that got me wanting to investigate about Jim Carrey. And so I did. I made actually 2 videos about him and exposed him.
Actually, that call never took place because I happened to watch the Periscope where Cappy said that to the audience. Didn't say it to Daniel. More Daniel fantasy.
As a very satanic individual and someone who I believe is involved in human trafficking. Very messed up guy. Well, shortly after I made those videos, a man named Eli Priest, he basically out of the blue, he contacted me and told me to take my Jim Carrey video down, that the source I had was a nut, blah, 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 blah. And I was sort of blown away. I didn't know what to make of this. I was like, What? Well, then Isaac Cappy contacted me like a couple days later. And evidently, Isaac Cappy and Eli had become friends at this point. And he was also telling me, Isaac was telling me, yeah, I take the video down because the story is legitimate, Daniel, but you're putting your sources in danger.
No. He told you it was bullcrap. And you were too invested in it, and you were gaining too much ground with your subscribers and your donations. And you said, screw that guy. I ain't taking nothing down.
And I was like, well, I don't think so, because they were the one that came to me and approached me about this. He said, no, and we sort of got into a fight about this. In fact, he had gotten so upset that I wouldn't even take his phone calls. He was just texting me all this stuff. And we were sort of doing a texting battle about this issue. Fiona Barnett eventually got involved in this situation, and he said, Daniel, if the source is really in danger, you need to take the video down. And I said, well, even if I take my video down about Jim Carrey, it's been replicated so many times.
Daniel, if it's a bullcrap story, you need to take it down. No, I'm not doing that.
Times on the internet, on so many different platforms, that it wouldn't matter. And Fiona was like, oh, that's a good point. And so then Isaac sort of backed off, and I felt like our friendship was sort of growing up until that point, and then it sort of went on ice, and I didn't really hear from him after that.
It never existed. Daniel Fantasy.
I just thought, well, I'll just pray for him. Then
what a piece of crap. What a piece of crap Daniel is. God tells me to take something down. It's not true. I said, screw that. I'm not doing that. No way. And I'll pray. You'll pray for him. Because, yeah. Wow.
What happened was I learned that Isaac was going to be traveling down to Australia to visit Fiona. So at that point, I had started this prayer meeting that I have every night. And I said, wow, let's pray. Let's pray that Fiona can reach Isaac for the gospel.
Yeah, he just started the prayer group then, because he hasn't been pushing Zoom all the way back to Skype. He hasn't been having a prayer group that he gleans for potential women that he can stalk and try to hook up with. He hasn't always had that for years and years and years. He just started it to pray for Cappy. Bull crap.
Sake. And I'm going to touch a little bit more about that regarding Fiona's eulogy, beautiful eulogy that she wrote for Isaac Cappy. It actually moved me to tears. And I'll come on that a little later, but I want to get through my...
Moved him to tears, but he reads right through it with no problem in this video. Spoiler alert.
Interactions with Isaac. And at this point, I had also begun to have correspondence, and I met with David Schurter. I started doing interviews with him that you can look up on my channel. And both he and I were pretty convinced that Eli Priest was bad news, and we were sending this information to Fiona. And we know that Isaac met with Eli Priest while he was there. We know that Fiona and Isaac had a falling out. I didn't really know anything that was going on. I was just praying. I was just praying somehow that Fiona and her husband would be able to reach Isaac for the gospel's sake. Finally, when Fiona then exposed Eli Priest, there was this big fiasco about Eli Priest evidently threatening the government of Australia with uranium, and Fiona basically completely distanced herself from him. And I reached out to Isaac and I said, hey, now that Fiona has exposed Eli Priest, I thought maybe you and I could try to repair our relationship. And I didn't hear from him. I sent that text to him, I think, in mid-December, early to mid-December. Or maybe even earlier than that. I don't know. But I remember it was weeks and weeks I didn't hear from him. And then finally in early January, he texted me back one morning. And he said, no, Fiona Barnett's a liar, and Eli Priest has dug his own hole. And basically, Isaac sounded like he was on the outs with both of these individuals. And I didn't really know what to do with this. And so I reached out to David Schurter. I told him what Isaac had told me, because I was blown away that Isaac would say this about Fiona. And that's when David and Fiona sat down with me and had a conference call with me. In this, again, it was early January 2019, and they told.
So think about the ilk of those two characters. Think about that, and sat down and had a conference call with Daniel. Am I the only one that sees a problem in that? It's like two of these things are really horrible. So, but not Daniel though, right? The third thing, he's good. He's a good guy. Just having a conference call with two horrible people. But Daniel's good, right? Come on, man.
Me that Isaac Cappy had been unwittingly used. They believed unwittingly used by Eli Priest to entrap Fiona. And I don't want to go into all the details of that because I was going to report on this story, but neither Fiona nor David nor Fiona's investigator were willing to come onto my channel and corroborate all this information. And this was such a huge story that I felt like I needed that. So instead, I decided just to pray for everybody involved.
Did he say cooperate? Cooperate all this information? I think that's what he said.
I don't know if because of that, maybe Fiona and David got upset with me that I didn't report the story because it was shortly after that I lost contact with David. I tried to call him several times. He wouldn't return my phone calls. And, of course, then I know Fiona terminated her Twitter account shortly after that. Then, so that was my last communication with Isaac Cappy. And, again, it was a somewhat, I would say, tumultuous relationship, but I always loved him. I always deeply admired and respected his bravery in exposing the satanic pedophile.
This is the stalker Daniel talking. This fantasy relationship that he had with Cappy, you know, just like the chick he left the cross with the 3 little pebbles on her front steps. You're witnessing the stalking Daniel describe a relationship that never existed.
But when I saw the video that and I watched the last video that he made before his death, because it came out like 3 days before, and I watched it. When I saw it, I was really disturbed by it. I knew it had nothing to do with the whole fiasco between Fiona and Eli and all that. I knew it had nothing to do with that. But it was deeply troubling because I was like, man, he seems like such a tortured soul. Now I want to read Fiona's eulogy here because this brought me to tears. She writes, "It is with a grievous heart that I acknowledge the death of Isaac Cappy and honor the God-given qualities that drew me to him. When I invited Isaac to my home, I did so with informed consent. Many warned me not to, that he was part of an elaborate trap, which he unwittingly was." And again, she's referring to his involvement with Eli Priest. "However, I felt compelled to do so. The Isaac I got to know over 2 months was not the person we saw on the internet. That was in part the actor, the pretender. The person my family, friends, and I were impacted with was an intensely damaged, drug-addicted, moody, tantrum-throwing, attention-seeking pain in the arse, whose emotional maturity appeared to have been stunted at about age 10 years.
Very great way to speak about the dead, wouldn't you say? And she conveniently leaves out, well, I guess it's all lies, so it doesn't really matter, but I'll point it out. One reason she may have a chip on her shoulder when it comes to Cappy is he exposed her for being a liar. Basically in private, telling him all these insane stories about this guy did this, and this person's a pedophile, and this one's a pedophile. And she just happened to mess up and talk to Isaac about some people that he personally knew. And he also knew their whereabouts at the alleged times that some baloney she made up happened and exposed her for being a fraud, basically. So all this eulogy is skewed. I mean, why don't we just get Seth Green to do a eulogy while we're at it? Why don't we get Tom Hanks to do a eulogy while we're at it? Who else? I mean, why don't we get any number of folks that he pissed off? Why don't we contact them and see what their eulogy would be like? You know what I'm saying? It just seems ridiculous that you would get anything but more lies out of her. But anyway, let's continue.
Many a time I was tempted to throw Isaac out or throttle him, but my family would call me and advise, just be kind. He's here for a short time. You never know what he's going home to. We have the opportunity to show him God's love. It is evident from Isaac's last words that he accepted Jesus into his heart just before he died. Now, there's some confusion about this. She's not referring to the final video. In the final video, he's very tortured soul. But she's referring to this letter that I'm going to read here that was posted on Twitter by Ted Uno, who evidently knew Isaac pretty well. And this letter was not written by him, but by a friend who had talked to Isaac shortly before his death. And I'm going to read this letter. It says, I called Isaac when we first started speaking, all of a sudden a loud noise was heard, and Isaac said, I think my tire just blew out. Okay, so this is why Isaac is on the road. And by the way, people are asking, well, what was he doing in Arizona? So he lived in California. He was from...
We're going to skip ahead through this. If y'all want to watch this whole video and listen to this supposed friend give his accounts of Cappy's last moments, you can find it. You can find it. This is Daniel's my personal conversations with Isaac Cappy. You probably could even just skip over him and just find the letter online if you search for it. But we're going to skip over this part.
The Lord, Yahweh, is close to the brokenhearted and save those who are crushed in spirit. So that is what Fiona's referencing when she's talking about this eulogy. It is evident from Isaac's last words that he accepted Jesus into his heart just before he died. I'm continuing now with Fiona's eulogy. That fact has caused me more emotion and tears than his death because I thought I had failed in that department. I recall one time at the dinner table when Isaac seemed genuinely open to hearing about Jesus Christ. Oh yeah, I've heard of him. He's a good guy, right? He said innocently. But I was too angry at him at that moment to patiently and thoroughly share the gospel with Isaac, and I was short with him. I regret that. I should have just left it to my husband to do what he does best and explain salvation to Isaac. So when I received the barrage of early morning texts yesterday informing me Isaac had committed suicide, I grieved for the lost opportunity to lead him to salvation. But Isaac did not commit suicide. It is clear.
This lady can't find her own salvation. She hasn't come clean about anything that she's done. And she's got the audacity to put out there that she could have saved Cappy. I just hope it's not lost on anyone how sick these people are that are coming out and making false claims. A lot of friends come out after you die, a lot of people. And I am cursed with the ability to pay attention, I suppose. And I know that things weren't good with Fiona and Cappy because he called her out for being the fraud and liar that she is. I know things were never good with Daniel and Cappy because, Cappy seen him for what he was right out of the gate. And, and Cappy has got his own nefarious parts he's played and everything. I'm just trying to have a little respect for the man and not air those right now. There'll be time for that later. But in case anyone's wondering, well, is it, am I missing it? I'm not. I'm just not addressing it at this moment. So let's continue. We're almost through this. Let's finish this up.
From the growing body of testimony that Isaac was murdered in the USA child trafficking capital of Arizona by opportunists who seized his last testimony as grounds for another 2 bullets to the back of the head scenario. Was he thrown off the overpass? Was he ever there at all? Did military thugs shoot out his tire and drag him to their nearby base for a dose of Seligman's torture techniques? Isaac did not go to hell as I feared. A friend told me that Isaac's salvation did not rely on that one lost opportunity, and that was how I conducted myself daily that provided the main testimony. She is right. Isaac observed my family for the best part of 2 months. He was there when we said grace before dinner and gave thanks for him too. He got to observe my mother during a lengthy naturopathic consultation with her. He was there for my daughter's ballet concert. I remember the look of genuine delight on Isaac's face as he watched a stage full of young children stumble their way through their steps. And then at halftime, he broke down crying outside, telling me how lucky I was to have a family and how he didn't want to be a patsy. It seems I did not fail after all. It seems my family and I laid the seeds which others watered, others like the Christian who apparently conversed with Isaac as he was stranded on the side of a remote road just before the pedo network seized him. I take comfort in testimonies like that.
So, just to wrap up, kind of my final thoughts on all this. It's sad that things went down the way they did. It's sad that all of these players, I don't think really had a plan outside of exposing and collecting money for themselves. I don't think they had a plan of action outside of that. I don't think, well, I know they didn't have evidence. I don't think they cared about having any evidence. I think maybe this may have started. Actually, no, I don't think. I think that the motivations that I mentioned as far as Daniel goes, with it being about money, I think that's always been money and fame. I think that's always been the intention by all of these players here. And, they can't see the forest from the trees. They spend all their time fighting and bickering and who's got this and who's got that, and who have they helped? Nobody. Well, that's not true. They helped themselves. That's who they helped. But what do I know? I'm just a robot. Until next video, take care of yourself. Take care of your family. And if you know anybody who's dealing with suicidal thoughts, try to get them help in any way you can. This is the Patriotic Robot. God bless each and every one of you.